It's Wednesday, July 13. In the headlines, Jamaica's TV transmission must be fully digital by 2023. Extended maternity leave in the works for public sector workers. Regionally, suspected monkeypox case in Barbados. Internationally, Panama reduces fuel prices amid protests over high cost of living. And in sports, West Indies to face Bangladesh once again. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I am Simone Absalom Gale. Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Nigel Clark, has announced extended maternity leave and the introduction of paternity leave in the public sector. As the law now stands, maternity leave is set at 12 weeks, of which 8 must be paid by all employers.
The government of Jamaica intends to update the Public Service Staff Orders of 2004 to increase maternity leave from 40 days to 3 calendar months.
Paternity leave remains a novel concept in the Jamaican society, but Dr. Clark says the government's move is a signal as to the direction the society should go.
The government of Jamaica also intends to update the Public Service Staff Orders of 2004 to introduce paternity leave for the first time in the public service for fathers of newborns for a specific time and under specific terms to be finalized.
Minister Clark was speaking at a media briefing on Tuesday afternoon. Orders to give effect to the change are expected by September 30. Jamaican TV transmission must be fully digital by 2023. That's the thought of the Executive Director of the Broadcasting Commission, Cordell Green. He was speaking at the opening session of the Advanced Television Systems Committee's ATSC 3.0 boot camp and seminar at the Ocean Coral Spring Resort in Trelawney. He noted that there would be a switch-off date for the current analog system. As he states, it would be expensive to manage both systems simultaneously. Mr. Green said there are many financial and environmental benefits. The ATSC 3.0, also known as Next Gen TV, is a significant overhaul of the Advanced Television Systems Committee's standard for sending and receiving over-the-air signals. It features 4K and HDR picture resolutions and advanced Dolby audio. Jamaica is the third country to adopt this new standard, following behind the United States and South Korea. Technical Operations Manager of the PBCJ, Maurice Marshall, shares his experience from the seminar.
The significance of ATSC 3.0 for Jamaica is that it allows Jamaica to develop in many ways. As stated by Minister Robert Morgan last night, it equalizes opportunity for persons across the spectrum and helps to equalize the digital divide. So someone who lives in deep rural Jamaica is now able to receive a television signal in a way they were not able to before. ATSC allows for better penetration of signals, and so therefore it will allow for better dispersion. As to the general public, what it means for you is a better viewing experience. It also means additional information coming to you. It means a possibility of interacting with the content that you are receiving. This is also significant for public broadcasting. Up until now, Jamaicans have only been able to access the PBCJ through the cable systems. That means each person must have a subscription to a cable service in order to get public broadcasting. Through ATS 3.0, it will allow for the dissemination of the PBCJ signal over the air, and we will be able to reach many of the persons we've been trying to reach in underserved and unserved areas.
Parliamentarians are being reminded that the number of people who benefit from projects implemented through their Constituency Development Fund, CDF, are scrutinized against the funds allocated. The matter was discussed at the meeting of the CDF committee at Gordon House on Tuesday. Raquel Robinson tells us more.
A representative from the Constituency Development Fund in the Office of the Prime Minister proceeded to give a breakdown of the separate allocations given to the CDF.
9 million extra on the 20 million, plus remember we got additional allocations for COVID before all of this. You're looking close to $40 million now.
As Parliament draws to a break, documentations for upcoming events are being requested to seek financial clearance. However, some members of the committee have pointed out that the time span is short to properly make preparations for these public events.
But with all due respect to the administrators of CDF and to the chair, I think that for us to really sit down and to do the entire $9 million package between now and July 20th is a little bit...
Let me respond, member.
I doubt if it's going to be a favorable one, but...
In response, Chair of the House, Juliet Holness, outlined the reasoning of the time restriction.
Number one, the CDF office does not determine when we are required to complete the use of our funds by. If a program is introduced by the Ministry of Finance and stipulations made, the CDF office is required to execute those stipulations. So, a big part of why you would see a limited time in which to spend, if you remember, we would have had the additional amounts granted to us because we clamored as members of Parliament for additional amounts going into back to school, going into the hurricane season, and also to defray some of the stress that individuals face who are not on path. And our cries and pleas were heard and granted. So, because we are going to a close of parliamentary session, remember we do not meet in the month of August, Parliament goes on break, we have a limited time in which to come back to another CDF meeting to approve that particular spend so that individuals will have it to make use of over the August months.
The Constituency Development Fund, CDF, seeks to improve the effectiveness of members of Parliament as they are designated funding mechanisms for a constituency project. The main thrust of the fund is to promote human and infrastructure development at the community and constituency levels through the establishment of sustainable development projects. The fund generally distributes $20 million from the government to assist in community-focused projects. Reporting for PBCJ, I'm Raquel Robinson.
American actress Sheryl Lee Ralph, who is of Jamaican parentage, has received her first Emmy nomination for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series. Ms. Ralph plays teacher Barbara Howard on ABC's Abbott Elementary. Ralph's co-stars Quinta Bronson, Janelle James, and Tyler James Williams also received nods for their work on Abbott Elementary. The show has also been nominated with a nomination for Outstanding Comedy Series. In the business report, JP Farm increases its export volume by 40%. Danita Rodney is at the business desk.
Amid calls for companies to increase sales beyond the local borders, commercial banana grower JP Farms is reporting a significant increase in its fruit export volume since the start of this year. JP Farms has indicated that its export levels are now trending some 40% above that of the same period last year. The over 500-acre farm in St. Mary currently exports to a number of overseas territories including the United States, Canada, Cayman Islands, and the United Kingdom. General Manager at JP Farms, Mario Figueroa, said that as the company takes steps to expand on its recent export successes, it will continue to innovate while reducing costs where possible. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Tuesday, July 12, the US dollar sold for an average of $151.99. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $115.63. The pound sterling traded for $181.54, and the euro sold for an average of $155.45. The following reflects the movement of the JSE indices in Tuesday's trading session. The JSE index advanced by 1,253 points to close at over 300,000 units. The junior market index advanced by 43 points to close at over 4,000 units. The combined market index advanced by 1,559 points to close at over 300,000 units, and the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 1,325 points to close at over 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 103 stocks, of which 49 advanced, 38 declined, and 16 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 1834 Investments Limited, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited. Stocks declined for Access Financial Services Limited, Cement Company Limited, and Caribbean Cream Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Variable Preference, CAC 2000 9.5% Cumulative Redeemable Preference Shares, and General Accident Insurance Company Limited. The overall volume leaders were QII Investments Limited with over 3 million units, Future Energy Source Company Limited Ordinary Shares, and Dollar Financial Services Limited with over 2 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Clico Investment Fund was the volume leader with over 70,000 shares, followed by Calypso Macro Index Fund with over 3,000 shares being traded. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Insurance Corporation of Barbados Limited was the sole security trading over 1,000 shares. In regional news, the Antigua and Barbuda government says within a couple of weeks it will have a new subscriber for a $200 million bond it was forced to withdraw on the international market earlier this year. ABS TV has the details.
The bond issue has been topical in both financial and political circles in recent weeks. It also emerged in Parliament on Monday during questions to the Prime Minister.
And the Honourable Prime Minister tell this Honourable House and explain to the nation why did the $200 million bond issue on the international market fell through?
Mr. Speaker, as I indicated at an earlier sitting, we had a subscriber who, after the deal was concluded, decided to seek to increase the bond interest rate from about 6% as effective yield to in excess of 9%. Mr. Speaker, my cabinet is a very responsible cabinet, and we had deemed that it was too expensive to be borrowing at approximately 10%, $200 million. And accordingly, we have withdrawn the bond, and we believe that within the next couple of weeks, we should have a new subscriber with a better interest rate.
Prime Minister Brown insisted the aim is to ensure taxpayers are not burdened with high interest rates on this loan.
What we're seeking to do here is to get the best deal. And let me remind the member for Barbuda that during the governance of the UPP, that he and the leader of the UPP, Harold Lovell, they borrowed $100 million from Credit Suisse. One part of the bond had an interest rate of 13%. The other part of the bond was 11.5%, given an effective rate of about 12.5%. Mr. Speaker, we will never allow any creditor to abuse our country by charging those usurious rates. We felt the 9+% was too expensive, and we got out of the deal. We have canceled the bond, and we have yet another subscriber confirming that in the first instance, the bond was oversubscribed.
The Prime Minister had provided more information on the second creditor during a recent interview with ABS News.
We have an entity out of Turkey that has indicated an interest to subscribe to the full amount.
He told us the bond is likely to be reissued by this Friday.
Oil edged up a day after settling below $100 a barrel for the first time since April, and gains were limited by a U.S. supply report showing rising inventory and caution ahead of a U.S. inflation data. Brent crude was up 80 cents at $100.29 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude gained 74 cents to $96.58. That was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, Barbados health authorities are investigating a possible case of the monkeypox disease. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Kenneth George has confirmed that he is aware of the suspected case. Online newspaper Barbados Today reported that the individual had been tested on Tuesday and the sample was sent to the Trinidad-based Caribbean Public Health Agency for confirmation. St. Lucia has received notification from the Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPA, of its first confirmed COVID BA.5 subvariant case. The case is a 36-year-old female from Vieux Fort who does not have a travel history. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Sharon Belmar George says this suggests in-country transmission of the virus and the presence of other cases.
As we continue to note the return to normalcy with the opening up of events and mass crowd activities, we need to ensure that the proven public health measures are in place to prevent us from getting sick and to protect the most vulnerable. The public is reminded that the threat of COVID-19, long COVID, and its complications still exists, especially given St. Lucia's low immunization rate. Personal responsibility is extremely important at this time to reduce transmission of infection to ourselves and our family. The public is guided to continue the use of face masks in public, ensure hand washing and proper general sanitization. The public is also advised to use their discretion, ensure that they and their vulnerable family members are fully vaccinated and boosted before attending mass crowd events.
In Belize, the Ministry of Health and Wellness has also confirmed the presence of the Omicron BA.5 subvariant. The statement of confirmation was released Tuesday afternoon.
We've been hearing about the BA.5 subvariant in other countries, and now it has been confirmed to be in Belize. The Ministry of Health and Wellness issued a press release today stating that 40 samples were processed between June 1st and 28, and all were of the Omicron variant. While the majority, 39 to be exact, was of the BA.2 subvariant, which has been in Belize, one was of the new BA.5 variant. The BA.5 and the BA.4 subvariant are among the predominant subvariants circulating at the time across the world, including the United States, where most of our tourists come from. Patients with these variants present various symptoms, from runny nose to sore throat, headache, tiredness, cough, body aches, and fever. As of July 2nd, the BA.5 subvariant was responsible for nearly 54% of COVID cases in the U.S. The ministry advises that there is still significant evidence that while some research has shown that the BA.5 subvariant may evade the protection of neutralizing antibodies from previous infection and vaccination by 3 or 4 times more than previous variants and subvariants, vaccines do protect against severe symptoms and death from COVID-19. The ministry goes on to advise people to get vaccinated and boosted if you have not done so, and to wear a face mask, particularly in crowded areas. And the vulnerable population, such as the elderly, pregnant women, and people who already have underlying medical conditions, should take extreme caution and continue to exercise the hygiene practices.
Staying with Belize, the prison population is significantly lower due to the decriminalization of marijuana possession. Minister of Home Affairs Kareem Musa says the development is a good sign.
It used to be in 2016 that the population at prison was around 1,600 inmates. But because of this new legislation in 2017, the prison population has gone down a lot, which means that our magistrates, and rightly so, are not sending individuals to prison for marijuana possession any longer. We are now around 1,000, 1,100 inmates at the prisons.
In St. Kitts and Nevis, as the race for power continues in anticipation of the upcoming election, a representative of the Nevis Reformation Party, NRP, is arguing that it did better with loans it acquired while in government on the island level than the Concerned Citizens Movement, CCM, did with the $400 million received from the federal government.
We got a loan as opposed to $400 million free money, if you want to call it that. But the man who was responsible for the loan did 100 times better than the people who got 400 million. You see, this man revolutionized housing across Nevis. This man built community centers across Nevis to empower our people. This man went to bat for us in as far as the United States to ensure that our largest economic contributor, Four Seasons, came back home to handle their business. And that me and you, and you and you, and our mother and our father and our sister and our brother and our uncle and our aunts and our cousins can have employment. This man revolutionized how we look at the economy. Because before Barack Obama spoke about that wonderful stimulus package, our, when I say NRP's second leader introduced that. He's the one who kept Nevis afloat in a recession. And he did that with no CBI money. That is leadership.
Nevis' share of receipts from the Citizenship by Investment program has been a major talking point in this election. It is one of the areas of disagreement between the Concerned Citizens Movement of Premier Mark Brantley and Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris, which led to the breakup of Team Unity.
In news further afield, Panama's government has announced measures to curb the rise in fuel prices and some essential food products. It follows a week of nationwide protests showing no signs of dying down. Al Jazeera has the story.
For 2 weeks, protests have taken to the streets of Panama, demanding the government take action to combat the high cost of living. Prices of gasoline, medicine and basic food items have doubled since the start of the year.
People are protesting everywhere, and we are ready to start an indefinite strike until they sit down with us to discuss and find solutions to this unsustainable situation.
Teachers were the first to demonstrate at the start of July, but they have since been joined by construction workers, students and members of indigenous groups. In the central province of Veraguas, protesters blocked the Pan American Highway, affecting access of goods to the Panama Canal from other Central American countries. President Laurentino Cortizo blamed COVID and the war in Ukraine for the cost hikes. He promised to reduce the price of gasoline by 24% and freeze the cost of 10 basic food items to try and dissuade protesters.
One of the problems now hitting Panamanians and the world is rising fuel prices and the consequences. For that reason, I set up talks to address high fuel costs directly impacting the cost of staple foods, with the objective of finding concrete and feasible solutions.
But on Tuesday, protesters called the offer insufficient, demanding larger reductions and vowed to keep up their pressure on the streets. Analysts say the problem lies in an unequal economic recovery following the pandemic.
The macro numbers are based on a few items: logistics, the national airline, mining, and the Panama Canal. But the growth did not trickle down to the population while prices went up. So working-class Panamanians are wondering why, if the country is growing at 6.5%, they are unable to pay for medicine and gasoline.
The government is hoping for negotiations with union leaders, but for now, more demonstrations are planned, and a national strike is set to go ahead on Wednesday.
In sports, Radio Jamaica Sports is reporting that the board of the Jamaica Anti-Doping Commission, JADCO, is in receipt of the recommendations from its subcommittee appointed to investigate the incident which resulted in Jamaica's under-20 women's sprint relay team missing out on having their world record run in April being ratified by the World Athletics. It is understood that the board will be meeting to review the recommendations submitted by the disciplinary subcommittee. Jamaica's two junior golfers, Matea Issa and Ryan Liu, made the cut in the R&A Junior Open that is being played in Scotland at the Moneyfeith Golf Links. This means they joined the top 80 golfers from a field of 109 after the second round completed on Tuesday. Issa ended the second day on 16 over par 160 after posting 8 over par 80 on day 1 and 2 respectively. She was tied for 73rd on the first day, while closing day 2 tied for 71st with 2 other golfers. Liu had a very good first day, posting a 3 over par 75, but followed up with a rough second day, scoring 15 over par 87 for an overall score of 18 over par 162. He was tied with 1 other golfer in 75th place at the end of the 2 days. The leader in the field was Conor Graham of the host country, Scotland. He posted scores of 3 under par 69 and 5 under par 67 for the first and second day respectively, for a combined score of 8 under par 136. The third and final round will be played on Wednesday to determine the overall placement in the competition. Jamaica's Issa and Lou were invited along with junior golfers from 64 other countries in the under 16 age group to compete in the tournament, which is held every 2 years. It's vital to get the remedy right if West Indies are to come back and win the ongoing one-day international series against Bangladesh. This assessment from Windies ODI Vice Captain Shea Hope, as he spoke ahead of today's second match at Providence in Guyana, with the Windies down 1-0.
I think conditions had a bit to play with it. It was a difficult pitch to start on as a batter. But having said that, we still do need to find ways to score, whether it's picking up singles, finding more boundary options. But it's important for us to learn that as quickly as we can, and then find ways to score more freely and put the bowlers under more pressure, so that when we do get those bad balls, that we can find some more runs for the bowlers to bowl at. Again, cricket is one of those games we have to try to adapt as quickly as you can. Regardless of the situation, you have to score more runs in the other team to win. So just need to find a way to score some more runs, whether it's playing switch hits, reverse sweeps, whatever the case is, you just have to find a way to score more runs.
Bangladesh has won the toss and elected to bowl. That's the news on PBC Jamaica. Follow us on our social media pages at PBC Jamaica. Thanks for watching.